It's a not so happy Friday in the land. Do they still call it in the land after LeBron's life? Is that the nickname? Places
Is it still the land? I don't even know. Why would you call it the land?
I don't know. Is that what they call it? It's not really a cool place, but they kind of gave it a cool nickname, right? The land. Was it once upon a time called the land, or did I make that up?
I think you're right. It was called the land at one point, especially when Braun was there, but it's not the land of milk and honey as of right now. It's more like the land of, injuries and becoming a dump, according to you.
The land of the walking wounded, man, because according to reports, Shams, Woj, everybody, first and foremost, you got Evan Mobley for the Cleveland Cavaliers is going to be out multiple weeks with arthroscopic surgery, scheduled to have the surgery on Monday to remove a loose body in his left knee that could keep him out 6 to 8 weeks.
A loose what?
Loose body. I don't know. Maybe he's got somebody in there, like a little midget or something. I don't know. Vertically challenged, I guess. You got to be PC these days. Darius Garland, Al, got a fractured jaw in Thursday night's loss to the Boston Celtics. He will miss at least 4 weeks. So now you got Garland out 4 weeks, a month. You got Mobley out a month and a half to maybe 2 months. Cavs are sitting at 13-12. What do you think, man? It's been a tough season for them so far, man. But what do you think about in the trade lens? Could the Spider be available sooner than later? Right? There was talk that he's not committing to Cleveland past this season until the off season. But what if they slide? Could the Spider be available, man?
Look, man. I mean, when I think about the Cavs, this was supposed to be, especially last season, right? Remember all the hype. Knew last year that you were going to have a Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell trade just because they didn't go far enough in the playoffs. You saw that Danny Ainge was ready to make some changes. You get the haul for Rudy Gobert. That's all good. And then you talk about Donovan Mitchell going over to Cleveland. And as soon as he gets to Cleveland, they're like, this is a championship contending team. This team can go so far, this, that, and the third. And then you watch them and they get demolished. Once again, I'll say that again, demolished by the New York Knicks. Okay. Showing that they were not tough enough, physical enough to keep up with a brutal and physical team such as New York. But hey, you look at this season and right now they're a play-in team. They are currently 13-12 after losing to the Boston Celtics last night. And this team has just been up and down. Everyone's been missing nights, whether it's Donovan Mitchell, Garland, Jarrett Allen, now you got Mobley. It's just been a revolving door of guys who are in the rotation and who are not. And you thought after making moves to get Max Strus and so forth, re-upping on Karis LeVert, that this would be a competitive team again to be top 6. If I'm the Cavs right now, man, and this is what I'm dealing with Darius Garland being injured, misses some time, and Evan Mobley. I'm wondering how far we're actually going to go this year. And I'm looking, as you mentioned, think about Donovan Mitchell, especially if he doesn't want to be there. He thought he was going to be a New York Knick, all those things, be back in his hometown. I would, if I were Cleveland, I would gauge the temperature on how serious Spider wants to stay in town. And if he's not, you got to get ready to move him and get the most you can on that contract, because this contract ends the 24-25 season.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, people are going to be like, why am I trading more assets for a rental where you could have somebody in-house, you get a whole off season right now. So this is the best opportunity. If you're Cleveland, you're saying, hey, Spider's not going to be here long-term. Let's move him. Also, let's keep this in mind, CP.
Yeah.
And this is the last thing I got to say. Mm-hmm. The team looks good when Spider's not there. He's so ISO heavy and so ball dominant that when he's not there, and they talked about it, the ball moves around the court much faster and the team plays with a higher tempo pace. This is not to say Donovan's a terrible player. This is not to put any ill will against the guy, right? But when you watch a team, it is different. And if you're thinking about how do you include other guys in this offense and use all their strengths, sometimes less is more. As we see with James Harden, you allow somebody else like Tyrese Maxey for Philadelphia. You see how that ball movement's better too. Maybe that's a way that Cleveland could spin this thing for themselves.
Yeah, and we're seeing that. We're seeing that with Philadelphia. We're seeing that in Chicago right now with no Zach LaVine. And it's very interesting because our guy Justin Termini, shout out to my guy Justin Termini of NBA Radio. He put out a funny tweet. He's always poking the bear on Twitter. And Justin Termini put out this tweet. He says the Cavaliers trade for Donovan Mitchell was worse than the Timberwolves trade for Rudy Gobert. Just
Woo.
like in Utah, Mitchell puts up bigger numbers, but Gobert impacts winning more. What do we think about that in the chat, man? Agree or disagree? I think, I mean, that's a tough statement to make because last year, I mean, the Cavs were the number 4 seed in the East. They had touted one of the best defenses in the NBA for the entire season. Donovan Mitchell was playing at a high level. Darius Garland was playing at a high level. You had Evan Mobley starting to take that step up in year 2. Jared Allen playing great. They had all-stars on that team. So it's hard to really say, man. Things were really clicking for them at that stage. And last year, the Timberwolves were a complete opposite. I mean, they were nowhere near what they were just now. So it's very hard to say. Every season is different. Every season is different. You can't count on things from one season to that. I think both of these teams are key examples of why every season is different, right? Because going into the season, I don't think anybody would have seen the Timberwolves number 1 in the West and the Cavs struggling. So I don't think it's necessarily fair that you can say that. Specifically with the Cavs, with the Garland-Mitchell dynamic, taking out another high usage ball dominant player can certainly yield positive results, I think, in the short term, because you have more ball movement. Guys are playing more free. Guys are playing for each other. They're playing more selfless, which I think is the same thing you're seeing in Chicago. But I always feel like when things get tighter, you're still going to need that guy. And when I say when things get tighter, like in the playoffs, like you're still gonna need that guy. That's why, like, I'm not so sure if it benefits them long term. We would have to see. But what I can say is that we haven't seen this team really come together yet. They're still 13 and 12. They're in play-in territory, and I think what the play-in has done is, for teams like that are still scrapping or facing adversity, I don't think there's going to be a point in the season. They're too talented to completely slide. To be chilling with Detroit. You get what I'm saying?
Like, sure, no, absolutely. They're not going to be down with Detroit,
right? So I say that to say I'm not so sure they'd be so desperate to hit the panic button and say, "Well, let's trade Spider now," because even in a month or 2 months, once they get back to full strength, they can still be within play-in territory range. You know what I mean? They still got Spider playing right now. So you got Strus, you got Jared Allen, you got Karis LeVert. You have Georges Niang still play with this team. So they're still going to have some talented players on this team. So I think they still should be able to tread water, where I don't necessarily think they're just going to hit the panic button and trade them right away.
Nah, not at all. And it's not going to be right now, right? As you mentioned, they're 13 and 12. They're not even at the level of the Atlanta Hawks, who are technically right now out of the play-in. They're 9 and 14. That's another team that's struggling. You have Chicago that's, going on a little run. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a bit. Yeah. But look, the Cavs, as you said, are too talented. But when you look at the team right now, what you have, you're not going to have Garland. You're not going to have Mobley. Those are two big components of what they do. And I don't know how much you can rely on a Jarrett Allen, Donovan Mitchell ticket to keep you afloat. Donovan Mitchell is very talented. Don't get me wrong, right? Essentially, this is kind of similar to what he had out in Utah. But, I like Rudy Gobert is different, though. It's not like Jared Allen is good, but he's not Rudy Gobert good. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I just wonder, if you don't see it right now, you could be a hovering 500 team. You could try to wait until Mobley and Garland get back. But if you're under 500, and we're not talking about 1-2 games we're talking under 500. We're talking about 7-10 games under 500. At that point, and if you're in February, keep in mind we're talking about when Mobley comes back, it will be February.
Yeah.
If you're in that position, you have to make a decision, because you have to think to yourself, we can either go on a run when everyone's healthy, and this is not even to say Mobley is expected to miss 6 to 8 weeks. If it's 8 weeks, doesn't mean he comes back right then at 8 weeks. He could take time, and you got to ramp him up and get the minutes back under his belt. So for Cleveland, I think there might be a little bit more urgency than we're talking about right now as this progresses. We're talking middle of December right now. It's December 15th. 16 more days of this month,
Mm-hmm.
but then you got to go through January, and January is going to be the biggest test for them, in my opinion, where if you're hovering around 500 through January, I don't see them making a move. But if you start to reel and you have Donovan Mitchell and Jared Allen, and that's not cutting it, I would be questioning what you have on this team, because if you can't win with at least Donovan Mitchell, who's supposed to be a superstar, you traded for this guy because it puts you over the top. As you talk about, he's supposed to be that. You want this type of guy because in the playoffs, if you need someone who score in isolation and drop 45 with no problem, that could be that guy. He didn't do it against the Knicks, though. He didn't show up. Actually, it was Garland that showed up out of everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then if you're saying if he can't help this team stay afloat to get to that range, I think you're going to start seeing Cleveland say, we got to move this guy now, because if it's not looking good here, why keep him in-house?
I just think, as I said with the play-in tournament, Miami showed us last year. Just make it and see what happens from there. Like, you could have a situation where it takes Cleveland March, early April to really get it together. They make the play-in, and now, they see a Sixer team or a Bucks team and make it tough for them, right? Or even a Celtics team in an 8-1 matchup and make it tough for them. Like,
Steve, let me ask you this right now, though. Let me ask you this. What team right now do you see Cleveland fully healthy taking down in the East?
I think Milwaukee can be beat.
Okay.
I think they definitely can be beat. I mean, the Freak is playing at a ridiculous level. He's killing everybody right now. But
64 points.
I think they can be beat, because if you're coming in there with Garland and Donovan against Dame and Malik Beasley, how are they shutting that down? That's going to be tough.
But wouldn't you have to say for the other side where you have Giannis?
Sure. Yeah,
and
sure.
Brooke?
Sure.
I mean, you got Brooke guarded.
Sure.
Jared Allen's got to be leaving the set.
I got Allen out there. This is all-star. I got Allen out there as well. I got bench. I got Strus. I think they can now. Why could they knock the Bucks off?
I don't know, man. I think, to me, I look at Brooke as like a stronger, more intimidating center than what you got in Jared Allen. I mean, Mitch, for a guy who's an all-star, I mean, Mitch,
for sure.
Mitchell Robinson should be the all-star instead, because he dominated the living daylights out of Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. So I think Brooke is better at that point, especially because he could bring him out from the three. And then Giannis, Mobley trying to guard Giannis, that's not possible to me.
Yeah.
So it's like, I honestly, it just evens out that way, where it's like you talk about Milwaukee's perimeter, not great. And that's where the Garland and Donovan could take advantage. But then interior, for me, it's like that's where Brooke and Giannis could. And I think the one difference, though, is that I guess I'll lean Dame more than anybody else, because Dame has actually gone further in the playoffs than Spida. But I think it's close.
Who do you, obviously the next thing is there with Spida. I'm sure Kobe Altman is already talking to who's our cap guy again? I'm sure he's talking to Brock Aller. I'm sure they're talking. I got to think he's calling Pat Riley right now.
Well, you saw the Nets are another team to watch out for.
Nets? I don't see it, man.
Really?
I don't see it.
I have people DMing me. They're saying they're worried about the Nets coming in here and poaching Donovan Mitchell.
Go for it. I think it's Miami, man. You got Hawkes playing at a high level. Riley could be looking like, you know what? Listen, man. Hero, it's been real. We're going to get a killer in here next to Jimmy and Bam. You go get Donovan. They lost out on Lillard. They lost out on, KD. They lost out on Harden. Like, they lost out on a lot of guys. Beal. They lost out on Beal. To me, that's the biggest threat to the Knicks getting Donovan Mitchell is going to be Pat Riley in Miami Heat. I truly believe it. And the way Hawkes is playing, Hero becomes more and more expendable if you're going to go get Donovan Mitchell.
I like Hawkes too. He plays defense.
He's a beast.
That man plays defense.
He's a beast. He's a beast. So let's see what happens there. The land might be burning. It's a little ember right now. Not burning. It's a little ember. It's a little ember going on in the land.